Check, check. Hello everyone, I'm Chris Chabot and we're here today for What's the Hubbub about the Google Buzz APIs. So if you're not here to learn about the Google Buzz APIs, you're probably in the wrong room. If you are, it's going to be awesome. So I'm Chris Chabot. You can find me on Google Buzz at buzz.google.com/ShabotC, and I'm also ShabotC on Twitter. If you are tweeting about the event, we have 2 hashtags up. That's the I/O 2010, and for this talk, we're using the hash Buzz API. Also, we're using Wave, live waving, which is completely awesome in conferences, and I think the previous session covered Wave pretty well as well. So if you want to see live notes, if you want to ask questions or anything else, we invite you to join on this URL, and you can enter your questions there, and we'll get to it at the end of the session. So I wanted to start with a little story. 2 years ago, we had the first Google I/O. And at our first Google I/O, we also just started talking about open social. And we told people the web is better when it's social. And back in the day, 2 years ago, social was still a relatively new concept. And we started sessions asking people to raise their hand who had a social profile or not. Nowadays, you can't even imagine it anymore because the web has already become so social that having a social profile on some kind of social site is as common as having a mobile phone. And I think we send you a mobile phone, so I feel pretty secure saying that. The point, though, is that the web is becoming a social place. We're moving from a web that used to be about static information, where you had documents and big blobs of text, to a web that is about people connecting with your friends, sharing experiences, playing together, doing projects together, talking together. And as this phenomenon is growing and growing, we are running into a few interesting challenges. The challenges are that the web is a really big place. There's all these different destinations that you can go to, but every destination talks a different language, a different culture. It can talk a different protocol, it can have different terms of service, it can have different contractual things that you need to fill in before you can do business with them. And that's a potential issue, because your customers might be in one of those locations where you don't speak the language or you don't understand the protocol. So we like to solve that problem here at Google. We believe that anything that is good for the web is good for Google in the end. So we want the entire web to be very successful. It is in our interest as well. So when we were working on Google Buzz, we first sat down and we said, we think it's very important that we're going to build a platform that uses all these open protocols, that we do our bit to help push these standards forward and help develop the web in such a way that you can be social anywhere in the web, that you can join the conversation anywhere in the web, that you can talk to people, connect to people, play with people, share with people everywhere. It should be part of the infrastructure of the web. It shouldn't be a special destination. So when we built Google Buzz, we looked at a lot of open protocols, and one of them is Oauth. Oauth is an old protocol. It's been around for a while, and it's the de facto protocol that people use for authenticating themselves against a service, proving that they have access to something. We also had Atom and AtomPub, which have been around for a long time, since the beginning of the blogging days, and it defines a rich format for exchanging information with each other. And there's lots of libraries out there already that are able to read streams in certain formats, and there's a lot of people who have experience programming AtomPub using REST APIs. And it's a format that works really well on the web, so that was a logical choice for us to make. The other thing is RSS and RSS media, which defines how pictures and other media can be attached within a stream. Some cases, protocols weren't fully developed yet, and we spent a lot of time on creating them. For instance, PubSubHubbub is one of the protocols that makes it real time. You don't want to go to a service and say, are there any updates available for me? Are there any updates available for me? If you keep doing that all the time, it's not going to be real time. It's going to be difficult to program, and it's not going to be very efficient either. So push, as we call it in short, makes it possible for content to be pushed to you in real time. Activity streams was the format that we used to describe the content that you'll be downloading when you're talking to the service. And activity streams adds a lot of rich information to Atom that tells people what is happening, where it's happening, etc. And finally, we needed something which isn't currently in Buzz yet, but will be very soon, and that's Salmon. The problem space is that you're creating a message on a different platform, and you want that message to be pushed back into Buzz again. So you need a way for conversations to be able to flow back upstream. And there's going to be a session later today by John Panzer and Joseph Smar, Bridging the Islands, and they're going to go into deep They're going to do a deep dive into the technical details about Salmon. So when we launched Buzz about, I think, 99 days ago, that's about right. We launched with these two interfaces, and we're quite proud of them. We believe that the Geo integration works really well. We're using it extensively inside of Google as well, and I think most of our ideas and concepts are now brainstormed about within Google Buzz in our own Gmail interface. And we have a mobile version, which is really interesting because you can do location type services on it as well. But we don't think that's enough. We want Buzz to be part of a much bigger ecosystem. So as of today, we're launching the Buzz APIs that allows you to do everything that you see in the interface here. So you can do things like creating comments, pushing comments into people's Buzz streams. You can read out comments, either a consumption stream, as we call it, the people you follow, or your own stream. You can add rich media to it, like geolocations. You can do things like commenting, liking, deleting, muting threads, and all the other operations that are connected to a Buzz post. And you can attach pictures and other rich media, and you can work with comments. We're also very happy to announce that a couple of partners have been helping us to test the Buzz APIs. We've been developing it over the last 2 months. And these are the companies that will be launching some form of Buzz support today. So there's going to be a blog post going out pretty soon that will have links to their applications. And actually 2 of those partners have been kind enough to come on stage here later in the session and talk about their experience implementing the Buzz API. Before I get started on how all of this works, I wanted to give you a bit of a warning that we do call this a labs feature at the moment. And that means that we think that it's pretty much stable and done, but we also know that a few things still need to be developed. There's a lot of open protocols where we're still talking to the community about what exactly the specification should look like. We think that's okay. We like iterating in the open where everybody can weigh in with their own opinions and experiences. But that does mean that as these protocols progress and are developed, we might have to change our API in a few minor ways. So keep that in mind as you're developing, that there's going to be a few small changes down the road. So with that out of the way, I wanted to start on how this API works. First of all, you need to authenticate using OAuth, as I mentioned before. There's one thing slightly different. If you look at the normal Google OAuth for web applications webpage, you'll see lots of cool instructions there for how to create your OAuth key and secret for your own web application. However, when you're using Buzz, the authentication URL where you redirect a user needs to be a little bit different, and we've got it listed here. You also need a few additional parameters in there. You need a scope, a domain, and an icon URL if you want to show your own logo. So if you use that, your authentication URL will look a little bit like this. It should be encoded, of course, so keep that in mind. Once you do that, you'll be redirected to this screen, which is modified for Google Buzz, and it tells end users a little bit more about what they're allowing an application to do. So you can see posts, you can post stuff to your Buzz stream. The application can download information about the people that you're connected to, pictures, thumbnails, etc. At the moment, you also notice that we have 2 institutional screens. That's a bit of a complicated issue. It has a lot to do with how our internal systems work. We know that this is far from an ideal experience, and it is going to be changed somewhere in the future. After you've authenticated and you have a valid OAuth token set up, you can talk to this REST API endpoint. As I said, it's atom pub based, so that means that for every action that you do with the Buzz API, you're using URLs to talk to it. For instance, if you wanted to create an activities, you would use this URL /activities. We have the documentation up for all the different endpoints that you can talk to at this URL. So that's code.google.com/API/buzz/docs. And we've got very extensive big documentation on every bit of the endpoints. I'm not going to do too much of a deep dive, because I think we got 60 different mutations that you can do there, and that would take a lot longer than this session is going to last. We also have a couple of very useful tools that are going to make it a lot easier to play around with the Buzz API. The first thing is something that the engineering team, while developing the API, came up with. They really like curl, and they saw that Twitter released a modified version of curl that could talk to their API, and they thought, we can do better than that. We can make a curl version that works with any OAuth-enabled endpoint. So at this location, you can find a project that they hacked up that allows you to do a curl operation to any OAuth-enabled endpoint, and it also has a couple of Buzz-specific hacks built in. So you can do an OA curl -Buzz login, and it will log into the Buzz services right away for you. So using this tool, you could go to the command line and use the REST APIs already. If you want to get serious about it, we also have started developing a couple of client libraries, which are going to make your life a lot easier if you're trying to build a web application. The PHP client library is about 95% finished, the Python library about 90%, the Java library the same. They are open source under Apache license, so if there's any functionality missing or if you'd like to add anything to it, patches are completely welcome. And you can find the issue tracker in the source repository on these URLs. There's a few things that I wanted to get out of the way as well about how this REST API works. So first of all, you build up a URL for the endpoint you want to talk to. So we'd use buzz v1, people to use the people interface, activities for the activities interface. But there's a couple of query parameters that all these endpoints have in common. The first is there's an alternative output format. You can choose if, as a developer, you prefer to use Atom or JSON-based output formats. In our experience, 90% of the developers tend to like JSON. On the other hand, the default at the moment is Atom because there's a lot of legacy readers out there that are Atom enabled. And the great thing about activity streams is that you could load up the URL for your feed in any RSS or Atom reader and it would still work out of the box. So that's the reason why we're using Atom as a default output format. The other thing, if you're developing, especially if you're doing some stuff from the command line, you probably like the pretty print format because usually we remove all the white space, character returns, etc., which makes things pretty unreadable if you're trying to see what the output is. So by putting in the pretty print, you'll get a nicely formatted document back. The other thing that we have on all write operations is a preview mode. If you're trying to create a buzz post and you want to show a preview to your end user how this buzz post is going to look like, for instance, you've attached pictures to it, there's links, attachments, videos, etc. You can do a post to the endpoint for creating it and add preview equals true, and you will get back the representation of what that object will look like, and you can display it in your own user interface. So it's a great feature of letting users test out what their actions are going to look like. And the other things when you're reading out long list of return formats, like if you're getting a list of all the people you're connected to, if you're getting a list of all the buzz posts, you can use the max results, max liked, and max comments to determine how many results you want to get back. And there's also a continuation token, so if you're showing the first 20 results, you want to be able to page to the next 20 as well. Finally, everything is also Geo Enabled, both in what you will get from the streams and what you can put into it. So there's search queries, there's a couple of things you can add to it. You can add a latitude and a longitude and a radius that allows you to search on some place on Earth. Or you can do a bounding box. For instance, if you're developing a mobile application or using Google Maps to show all the different posts that are happening in some area, you can use a square rectangle bounding box to get all the results in that common area. Finally, I mentioned activity streams in the introduction already. Activity streams defines a couple of useful bits of information that you need when you're rendering output. The first is who did this action. That's very important in a social environment. The other thing you need to know is what did they do. So for instance, in this case, they were, I guess they're playing in this case. It could also be martial art practice. But so activity needs to have a person that's doing something. It needs to have an action that's being taken. And it needs to know when that action occurred. Finally, there could be a few extra bits of information on there, the context in which the activity happened. And that could be a location, the geolocation I mentioned before. It could be a mood or any other kind of fields in there. I see we have some cat fans in the audience, that's good. So using the command line tool, we can actually start talking to this interface. So if you type Oauth curl fetch and then use the activities me self, so that's going to give me my own personal stream. And you would execute this in your terminal, you will get back a very long document with lots of information in there. This is more information that I'm able to fit on the slide, so I chose to highlight a few sections of it. First of all, in the root element of the stream, you'll find a few useful things that you need to render the context around it. You'll find a title, you'll find the dates in which this stuff happened, and there's a unique ID. This ID you will need in future operations if you want to do a delete, adding a comment, liking, muting, etc. Then this is the ID that you would use on those operations. Secondly, as you can see, we have a links element with a number of entries in there, the liked, the self, and replies, and they contain information about the stream that you're currently looking at this specific entity in it. In this case, it would have a URL where you can get all the people who liked the post that you're looking at. It would have a count on there, which is quite useful. If it has a count 0, you know you don't have to render anything, and you don't have to make any API calls to retrieve any information. Otherwise, you can either choose to have lots of likes already included in the mainstream, or if you specify the max liked equaled some number, you can tell the Buzz API output to include those in the mainstream itself. So it depends on the type of application design you're doing. If you have more of an AJAX or a mobile phone type small interface where you're not showing the comment, you want to use this counter and say click here to show all the comments on this item. If on the other hand you're building a big web application where you want to show the fully rendered stream, you want to say max liked equals some high number so you get everything back in one single request. The same goes for replies. You can either look at the counter here and say, click here to download all the replies, or you can choose to include a max replies equals some number to have them included in the base stream as well. Another important part in activity streams, we already had when it happened an ID, is who did this. We call that the actor within the activity. So you get a basic information set of a name, an ID, a profile URL if you want to create a link where you can link to the profile page, and a thumbnail URL where you can get a visual picture, the avatar, the icon for this person. The third part of an activity is the verb. What happened in this activity? The activity stream supports lots of different verbs. At the moment, the only thing you should expect from Buzz is a post verb. Somebody created a Buzz post. In the future, this might expand though. Finally, in the user interface in Gmail and mobile, we're showing a source. Where did this activity occur? So we're including that in the stream as well, and you have a textual string there, and that can be anything. In this case, stuff was created in the Buzz interface. It could be your website's address, it could be the domain name you're using, it could be from the web, it could be anonymous. So this is a free textual string. Don't build any code that depends on this having a certain value. It's more that if you want to show exactly the same thing as you're showing in the Gmail front end, then this is the string you want to include in there where it says Chris Chabot posted a Buzz from, in this case, Google Buzz. And there's visibility included. Google Buzz is a unique product where you can use the group selector to choose if you want to have your post being completely public or you only want it to go to a certain set of people, a private post. So the visibility defines which groups have access to this Buzz. If it's public, that means that everybody has access to it. If there's a different URL here with a different name, then that means that a person submitted a Buzz post with a surrogate targeting. Who can actually read this Buzz post? The one thing to keep in mind, and this is still somewhat in flux, we weren't sure what to do with private postings. Especially since not every interface at the moment has a great UI for showing which posts are private and which posts are public. And we don't want to accidentally start exposing private information. So we made the choice that at launch, we're not returning private posts except if you created them yourself. In any other situation, you get an empty document with a bit of basic information of a date and an actor. There's not going to be any content in there. So if you're writing code and you happen to stumble across an empty activity, that's the reason why. And there's probably some private group visibility selected there. Also, if a Buzz post contains geolocation, that's going to be included in it. It can be either a geocode and an address, it can be only a geocode, or it could even have a place name in there if it's a recognized location within our systems. And finally, the last bit of an activity stream, there needs to be an object. Something happened to some things. That's the object of activity. Currently, Google Buzz will only create nodes, and nodes is pretty much a bit of text. Again, in the future, as we're expanding the system and we're iterating out in the open, developing these standards and developing what we need to support, we'll probably have more object types. But for the time being, nodes are all that you're going to have to expect. However, if an object is more complicated than just a bit of text, for instance, if somebody posted a link, then you need to have attachments. You're going to have an object and there's going to be an attachment connected to it. The attachments can have many different formats. In this example, we're using a link, so there's going to be an article, which is what a link attached to an object is called in activity streams. There's going to be a name there, that's the name that you want to put on the screen, and you're going to have the href value attached to it. But maybe you're also uploading a picture, so you're going to get a different attachment type that includes an image, a photo. And the same happens for video, and it depends on the type of attachment, what information is going to be connected to it. So for an image, you're going to have a width and a height. For a video, you're going to have multiple locations that you can link to that either have a video URL or the containing page, etc. And these are all the verbs that you could expect to see happening in the future. As I said, at the moment, we're only supporting a subset of these. But as we're importing more rich sources into Google Buzz, and as we're expanding the user interfaces and iterating on what we think would be valuable to have in the interface, more of these should be popping up. So when you're developing your code, make sure to keep that in mind, that you're writing a big switch case statement or writing lots of ifs, and not hard coding any assumptions on what your input is going to be. Because it is a REST API, that means you can also do interesting things with the same locations. For instance, if you have your own activities, you could do a post to it. And in a RESTful API, doing a post to a URL means you're creating a post. A RESTful API also means that whatever you read out of it, you can push back into it. So if we're looking at the same object that we're reading out of it, an activity object, you could push exactly the same JSON blob back into it with a post, and that will create the actual Buzz post for you. Likewise, if you want to like something, you go to the liked URL with the comment ID that you want to like, and you do a put operation. And if you want to unlike something, you would do a delete operation on the same. There's also a lot of libraries that we're busy developing. I developed a PHP one, so I'm going to use that as an example. But we also have the Python one that works on App Engine and standalone mode, and we have the Java one. And they all have a lot of examples built in. So they have examples on how you can download a stream, both the public one as well as your private one, how to edit post, how to like stuff, mute stuff, delete stuff. There's too many examples really to mention here, so I'm literally not going to try. But the cool thing is they're all open source. There's a lot of implementations out there where you can just cut and paste bits of operation that you want to do. And there's examples of how to do high fidelity rendering of a bus stream, for instance. And you can actually, if you want to, you can start checking out a few of these demos if you go to www.buzz-demos.com. And I'm hosting a live version of the PHP demos up there. The way it works, and this is pretty much the same for all of the libraries, is that you create the global Buzz object. You do some OAuth magic that's thankfully taken care of for you. And you get an object back that you can start doing operations on. For instance, you could get all the consumption stream posts, which means the people that you're following. You see there's a number of numbers added to it, which is the maximum number of posts, the likes, and the replies that you want to get. So from that, you get an object back that contains the entire stream of your consumption post. You want to start iterating through it, and for instance, you want to see, hey, I've got a link, I've got a type of object. At the moment, it's only node. It could be more in the future. We've got attachments connected to it. There's a lot of different types that we're supporting right now. Photos, photo albums, attachments, videos, articles. You want to create some custom layout here. The nice thing about us using activity streams is that you get the rich information about an activity. So you know the URL, you know where the video is, you know how to do rich rendering. You don't have to just take a blob of HTML and put it in your own page and hope that somehow magically the layout kind of works in your own site. No, because you have the meta information, you can be creating your own layout around these objects. And finally, you want to display this content that you've created. Likewise, if you want to create a Buzz post, you would create an attachment because we want to put a link in there. You give it a URL that you want to link to, you give it a title, and you create the post object. Then you just do a Buzz create post, and it will be pushed to the server. And there's going to be an exception if there was an error. If it returns a new object, you can display that as this was the result of your action. So using these libraries really simplifies talking to this API quite a bit. You can start hooking up Buzz support by either pushing content to it or reading content from Buzz in a couple of lines of code. There's a lot of features that we're still working on implementing at the moment. For instance, one of the things that we're working on, and it might be working today, so this is kind of exciting, is full push support for Buzz. I know that for non-authenticated streams, the support should be in there today. I'm looking at the audience here. Sammy, do you know? Push support? Yes, I'm getting a yes. Okay, so with a bit of luck, at 3 p.m. there's going to be a session by John Panzer, Joseph Smart, Bridging the Islands, and he's going to be doing a live demo of this stuff in action. Unfortunately, when I was finishing my slides yesterday, it wasn't 100% sure yet, so I'm not going to be able to go into too much detail myself. We're also still figuring out how to add richer support, more inputs. We're working with standard community, so there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff happening around the API. We've got a lot of interesting concepts as well, and I'm seeing some really inspired faces here ready to start programming on them as soon as they slept for a weekend. So keep watching this space. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff added to it. And with that, I wanted to give the stage to Marco, Seesmic, who've been working on implementing support in their products.
Yeah, microphone is on. Thank you, Chris, and also for the opportunity to present us here in the session at Google I/O 2010. My name is Marco. I work for Seesmic, and I'm the Director of Engineering and Desktop Client Lead there. And I want to talk about us integrating Buzz into our applications today. First, a little bit about Seesmic, if you haven't heard about us yet. We want to try to solve a simple problem, which is if you want to share with all your friends and get the feedback and comments from all your friends, you have to visit a lot of different networks today. And what we try to do is bring that all together and deliver the real-time web to you, wherever you are, whatever platform you're on, and with whichever device you're using. So we want to provide one unique solution which you can use across all the platforms. When Google asked us if we wanted to take part in the launch of the Buzz API, we were really excited because that is like a perfect match for us. And when we looked at the API, we found out that they were, as Chris already said, completely relying on open standards. So we have OAuth, we have portable contacts, we have Atom, JSON, RESTful APIs, activity streams. Our teams already had a lot of experience with these technologies, and there's a lot of information out there on the web, and there's code that we could reuse. So even if that just like happened a couple of weeks ago and we could start like really late on doing that, with all that information and all that experience that was already there, it was pretty easy for us to get up to speed fast and implement that. And of course, another advantage of using open technologies is there's no licensing issues that we had to deal with. It's all open. It's pretty good on the legal side, so we shouldn't have like big issues there. So it's really good and helped us a lot to get up to speed and implement this fast. So as our vision at Seesmic is to support as many services as possible and to support as many platforms as possible, I'm really happy to say that we can add Buzz now to our desktop products, to our Android product, and also to our web product. Let me start with desktop first. About 2 months ago, we first showed our next generation of our desktop client, Seesmic Desktop, which is a very popular social networking application. It's built on the Silverlight 4 platform as an out-of-browser application. So it's running on Windows and it's running on Mac with the same code. But it's not just a client, it's a platform itself. So we were, based on that platform, able to create a plugin platform and implement all the features that we have in the client ourselves as plugins already. So Twitter, Facebook, even the Buzz integration now, that's all a plugin on that platform. And it's open to third-party developers, so everyone can extend the functionality of the application with your own plugins if you want to. We've published the preview of the SDK already for that. So as we have network here, hopefully, we should be able to give you a quick demo on that. So here we have the application running. This is the Seesmic Desktop 2 preview, which is running with a Buzz account here. If I go to the settings in the application and go to the plugins here, I can see that everything here is really implemented as a plugin. So we have a Bing Maps plugin here. Oh, shouldn't I say that on a Google conference? But we do. But you can see that's Google Buzz. There's Facebook in here, Foursquare, LinkedIn, Twitter. Everything, all of that is a plugin, and we can just drop it in or remove it, and the client will either like be extended by the functionality or it will be removed. So for the Buzz support, like all other services we have, like Twitter, Facebook, you get timelines of your Buzz feed. So, for example, here's a timeline. In that timeline, you can see images that were attached to posts. If there are comments, you can click here, and you get the list of comments from people. People liked it. So there are already a couple people who liked that post. You can see that at the bottom. But of course, you can also update your Buzz status from here. So I can just go in here. I have my account selected here. Right now, posting is only supported as public. So we're looking forward to add the privacy controls there as soon as we can over the API. But I can just like post something here, and hopefully the network works for that, and just add my new post, which likely shows up at the top. Hello from IO, so I can just like do everything I want. I obviously also have the ability to search from the application here if I want to. So I can do a search for Buzz here, and should get results for Buzz from Google Buzz. Yeah, that's the demo for that. So if you're interested about that, and especially the plugin platform, if you're interested to start developing, as I said, Buzz is a plugin itself. If you have something that you want to develop with a client, platform.seesmic.com is the location to go, and to learn more about the platform there. As I said, desktop was the first platform. Web is the second platform. We also have a very successful web-based client, which is lightweight and easy to use. You don't have to install anything on your computer. And of course, we also had to add Buzz there. And let me just jump into that one and find the right window here. So here you see a preview of, well, not a preview anymore, but here you see our Seesmic web client running with Buzz. This is still a Twitter list which is open here. But I can click on Google Buzz here in the sidebar, and I get the same timeline which I just had in my desktop client. And it's all in here too. I have the same features in here, like commenting. I can obviously also post from here, post a comment. Oops, sorry, that was the mouse. And it posts the comment. I can update my status from here. So I can also select which accounts I want to use. In that case, I have a Twitter account and a Buzz account here, so I can cross-post to both services. I can just select one, whatever I want. So this is from Seesmic Web. And I'll update my status from here. So that's about web, which I just demoed. Third for us, which is very important, is our Android-based client. The whole mobile space is growing like crazy, and also thanks to the success of the Android platform. And Seesmic has a very popular social, mainly Twitter right now, application in the marketplace already, which has been downloaded more than 250,000 times already. And I mean, Android, Google, Buzz, that's just a perfect match. So there was no question for us that we had to add Google Buzz also to the Android application. So what you can see here on the screens, on the left-hand side, I can't demo it on stage, there's no camera, so I have to fall back to screenshots here, is the timeline of a Google Buzz account within the application. You can see this is the following timelines. You also see the tabs at the top. So you also have a nearby, so that's the bounding box that we talked about. You can restrict it to location. You can search. You can view your profile. You can cross-post to Twitter accounts and Buzz accounts. You can limit to either or, whatever you want. Any combination there is possible. If you go to a detailed view of a message, then you see the message, but you also have actions like delete in this case. It's the author's own account, so he can delete his own message. There's the like button. There's a comment button where you can see the list of comments, as you see on the right. And there's a commenting box at the bottom, which you can use. So it's all that functionality is there. Last but not least, Seesmic also owns Ping FM, which is a service that allows you to update dozens of services at once. And of course, updating status is very important, and Buzz that's a core feature of Buzz, so that has to be in our support too. So we can also add your Buzz account to Ping FM and update your status to all networks, including including Buzz now. So when is this going to be available? Well, today. Seesmic Web and Ping FM are releasing the support for Buzz as of today, and maybe it's already live. I'm looking at Johan. Yes, he says yes. So both services are live now with Buzz support. Seesmic Desktop 2 was introduced as a preview, so we are not like calling it a really like finished product. But for the first time today, we're making it available for end users to download from our website. Sorry. So seesmic.com/sd2 will get you an installer for the application, which includes the Buzz plugin, of course. And platform.seesmic.com is set for plugin for developers. And for Seesmic for Android, if you want to see a preview of the application, you should visit us down at the Sandbox booth, and we can give you a link to download and install the application. It's not in the marketplace yet, but it will be there soon. Yeah, so thanks. If you want to learn more about Seesmic, please come to www.seesmic.com. And with that, back to Chris.
Well, thank you, Marco. And these guys really have been working day and night to get this demo done today and actually going live. So we very much appreciate all your effort, guys. And next up, we have Socialwok talking about their experience integrating Google Buzz. So I'd like to introduce Ming, who will be doing the demo.
So hi guys, I'm Ming, Yong from Socialwok. So for those who are not familiar with Socialwok, right, socialwok.com, you can see some people have called up Facebook for Business on Google Apps. We basically create a collaborative workspace for your Google Apps domain. So you can also use your Gmail account or your Google Apps account or any work email account and actually just sign on, and you can create, and you can see it's a feed-based format like this, where you have commenting, and you can share rich media. We actually share files and Google Docs, Google Calendar, the whole works. All right, now let's go. So what I want to do today is I want to start off a demo to show you how we have integrated with Google Buzz. Now, so you can see here, Naveen Kumar, Naveen is my CTO and co-founder of Socialwok. He has a Google profile, as you can see there, right? And you can see all the updates. So what we're going to do first is we're going to set up Socialwok to pull in your Google Buzz or any Google Buzz profile you like. So if you go to Socialwok under Settings, and you can see we support actually multiple services. We support Twitter, pulling from Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and now we'll do Buzz. So first thing is we'll set up to actually pull in the connected sites for Google Buzz. So Naveen, for connected sites, yeah. So what Naveen is going to do now, he's going to enter basically his Google Buzz username. And if you notice, all we have to do is just put swok test1, right? We actually use WebFinger, which is supported under the Google Buzz API stack to actually get the endpoint. So once saved, we automatically recognize it's actually Naveen Kumar Google profile. So this is very nice for developers to actually just easily get a person's Google profile just using WebFinger. And what we're going to do is authenticate. Here, this is Oauth Authentication with Google Buzz. And you can see a very nice page, right, that shows you, that Chris actually just showed just now, of all the access that you're getting with Google Buzz. So this is for us to post out from Socialwok to Google Buzz. And you can choose multiple accounts. So once authentication is granted, what we're going to do is we're going to post in Google Buzz, in Socialwok, and then it will go out to Google Buzz. Here, Naveen is going to type a message that we are demoing at Google I/O, and he will put a web link. So something to note about Socialwok is that, as you can see, as I mentioned, we actually share in various things like Google Docs. So you can actually just insert under any of the small little tabs. So we also preview your website. So you can see, right, once you type the web link, it actually has the images of the actual website. So you can attach. It's a new way to do sharing. The interesting thing that I want you to note is CC. So you can actually type CC and Google Buzz. So once the checkbox has been done and you click share, it will actually publish simultaneously to Socialwok, to your private work group of colleagues, as well as out to Google Buzz. So this is currently public Buzz. So you can see here in Buzz, right there, we have successfully published. going back to Socialwok, and you can see, yeah, the things there. Now, the next thing we're going to show is Gmail. Socialwok integrates very tightly with email. We can forward email into a feed. We can also now support Google's recently launched Gmail contextual gadget technology. Now, in Socialwok, we have this Socialwok social gadget. So you can see here, do you see at the bottom of the email, there's 3 profiles, right? So let me explain. So this mail is coming from mgyong@gmail.com to Naveen at socialwok.com and Vikram at socialwok.com. So Vikram and Naveen are both co-workers in Socialwok. So you can see in the Gmail contextual gadget, they'll show the status, updates, the activity. So while reading a mail, you can now get the social activity of your colleagues right there. You can see the status, you can see the emails that has been shared, and the files. So Naveen, maybe we can click the, yeah. Now you can click on Ming. So this is me. This person, right, is mgyong@gmail.com. He is not a member of Socialwok yet. That's why you don't see the status update. But in Socialwok, we have the ability to actually do mail threading. So you can see if you click mail, these are all the mails that are shared between mgyong@gmail.com and the Socialwok guy. Now, this is the buzz. You can see here we actually support pulling in of the Google Buzz updates. So now as developers, you can actually start bringing social context into your applications, as we have demonstrated. And we can actually just invite. If you want to invite the person to collaborate with you on Socialwok, you can just type in the email address, the custom message, and instantly you bring that sharing and collaboration right into Gmail, into your Google Apps, as well as with Google Buzz. Yep. Now, let me just quickly, I'll take the next few minutes to actually talk a little bit more on the developer, how a developer would leverage our experience with Google Buzz. So before we actually got access to the Buzz APIs, we started work on this about 3-4 months ago. We took a stand that we wanted to support open social web, right? We wanted to support open standards. So things we supported was PubSubHubbub. To pull, as you have demonstrated just now, to pull in feeds. We could now pull in feeds from Facebook. We can pull in feeds from Twitter. And now we can pull in Buzz, as well as any RSS and Atom feed. We also supported activity streams, right? And including the extensions like Media RSS for rich format and Geo RSS for Geolocation. As well as you saw in the demonstration, right? WebFinger. We can just get access to the Gmail user part, and we automatically get access to the URL. And lastly, we use Oauth to authenticate with Google Buzz as well as all the other services like Twitter and Facebook. So in terms of Google Buzz specifically, right, we actually in the demo, in the demonstration, we actually showed 3-legged Oauth. So this 3-legged Oauth is an extension of what we do currently with Twitter and LinkedIn. And the other thing we demonstrated was the CCing and posting to Buzz. So we actually post to an end user's direct endpoint, the feed endpoint. Lastly, we actually put in the Google profile into a Gmail contextual gadget, right? So we just get the Gmail address, we pass the user part, and we use portable context to do discovery of the guy's profile, and finally use the Buzz APIs to actually fetch that update in. Next. So as demonstrated just now, that was the Gmail contextual, the social gadget, right? Now you can actually get social context right in email. So what are the cool things that we found about the Buzz APIs? It struck us that, guess what? When we supported all those open standards, like PubSubHubbub and activity streams, portable context, it took almost zero work for us to actually integrate with Google Buzz, which was very amazing because most other services take a lot of work. So because Google Buzz actually supported open social type of URL. So we were able to just post directly, like all the updates we have were activity streams generated. We just took the same activity stream format and literally just posted to Buzz, and with zero modification, it just got published. And the other very cool thing that was supported by Google Buzz was this thing called a cross-post namespace. So as you know, right, we have a status update that's published in Socialwok. And the same update is actually published out to Google Buzz. Now, what we can do is that in the process of publishing out, we can embed the ID of the Socialwok post inside that Google Buzz. So you can do very interesting things like refer to the original post. And you can do things like file sharing. In Socialwok, as you can see, we attach files, right, and Google Docs in the update. We could publish, say, hey, I'm sharing this file with you guys on Google Buzz. And in that URL, they can click that link and it will reference back the message in Socialwok. And when they click and goes back, they have to authenticate to get access to the files. So interesting scenarios like that could be leveraged by developers. Now, in terms of future work for Socialwok with Google Buzz, as you've seen, we support file attachments, Google Docs, Google Calendar, the whole works. We share everything Google in Socialwok. So this rich media can now be shared using Buzz attachment. So this is the next things we'll be supporting. Second thing is, you also saw, right? Socialwok supports commenting of updates. We could imagine federation of these comments to other social networks or from other social networks into Socialwok. The third thing is Buzz results. So in Socialwok right now, Buzz search. Right now in Socialwok, we support Twitter search. So literally, any user can just put a keyword and it will pull in from Twitter constantly, right, using our polling. But you could imagine now with Buzz search, we can actually do the same thing and PubSubHubbub, using PubSubHubbub. The fourth thing is private Buzz. Right now, what we have demonstrated is all public, and Buzz is soon to be giving support of Google Apps, and you can imagine we can actually post from Socialwok to private Buzz using authenticated OAuth. And lastly is context integration. Socialwok supports Google Contacts already, right? In Socialwok right now, if you want to type any email address, we will actually query your Google Contacts directly. With Google Buzz APIs, we could foresee actually getting access to the Google Buzz contacts, including the people you follow or the people who are following you, and then use that in Socialwok. So these are the things we have done with Socialwok. And if you want to check out Socialwok, just go on the web. It's socialwok.com, and you can create your own social collaborative network on Google Apps or any Gmail account. And before I end, one thing to note, Seesmic has launched the Seesmic desktop tool, and Socialwok now is also gone to the desktop. We are proud to announce this morning our partnership with Seesmic that Socialwok is now on the desktop using the Seesmic plugins. So thank you, everybody.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Cool. So closing words. We've been able to show a couple of the functionalities that we currently have built into the Buzz APIs. We believe we've given you the functionality to do everything that you're seeing in the current interface. We've shown a couple of examples of what you could do with this API. You can build classic messaging clients, you can integrate it into enterprise applications, and we'll be having some sessions later today as well, tomorrow actually. Yeah, it's Thursday, isn't it? Yeah, so Thursday there's going to be another session about Buzz, and it's going to cover the concept of how to use these kind of APIs in a Python environment to build a game, for instance. If you want to learn more about the API, the docs is a great place to start. We have a mailing list set up that will be monitoring and answering all your questions as well. So if you want to learn more, if you have any questions, if there's any other burning stuff that we can help with, you can find us there in the mailing list. Do check out the Oauth enabled curl if you want to play with the API from the command line, and we have the free libraries enabled for Buzz support. So tomorrow we have the Serve the Stream session that will be covering how to build a game using the Buzz APIs and using a Python environment. And also tomorrow, later in the day, we'll have a fireside chat with most of the PMs and directors of the various social branches within Google. So if you have any questions about Google's future direction about social, what decisions we make with Google Buzz, etc., what we're planning to do in the future, that will be the place to ask the right people. Finally, don't forget to check out the Wave. That's where people will be leaving comments, asking questions, etc. And with that, I'd like to move to questions and answers. If you do have a question, I would like to ask you to use the microphones, please. Otherwise, the video won't be able to pick up on it.
Just a quick question. Will you have ActionScript API support?
I didn't get that, I'm sorry.
ActionScript, Flags and Flash.
ActionScript. No, we don't have a library for it at the moment. We do have someone working in my team who's very excited about building one. So my suggestion would be to send out a mail to our mailing list saying, hey, I'm really interested in the ActionScript library. And he'll respond to that, and you can either help him out or make sure you get updated when it's available.
Cool. And you will also need to open up the policy for that.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Feel free. Nothing at all? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming, guys. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And if you have any other questions, you can find me in the hallways. Thanks.